Craig Harding, Marketing Director of Cor Comms. Welcome to Core of the Matter. Get with the program. What is programmatic advertising?
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Yeah, look, in its simplest format or simplest explanation, it's the technology that connects advertising buyers with advertising sellers. So it's bidding in real time on an ad exchange, so it's like the middleman, plus the data that informs that buying and selling. And so really it's essentially it's data and technology to power advertising. Once upon a time, we used to go to individual publishers or media outlets and cut those deals, do what they called IOs, insertion orders. And that was all done across a whole range of, so that would be very time consuming. But now obviously with the technology and the data, it's all done through uploading onto the technology and using data to buy and sell advertising.
And the buying and selling of that advertising, Craig, you know, I've heard the example that programmatic is a little bit like radio, newspaper, TV, outdoor from the traditional world of advertising that us older people know. Can you explain a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. And that makes perfect sense simply because the platforms which or the channels which we can buy on programmatic advertising are pretty much directly correlated to those traditional media advertising formats. So if you think radio has become streaming and podcasts, which we can buy programmatically. TV, traditional linear TV, has become broadcast video on demand or connected TV, which we can buy through programmatic, your 9Now, 7 Plus, SBS on demand. Similarly, your digital display or your newspaper advertising, which was traditional format, has become digital display, where there are ads through the advertising articles online. So there's that natural transition from traditional over to programmatic.
And how does it work for those who, you know, this is all new to?
Yeah, look, it's there's a lot of moving parts in amongst it. Primarily, there's what's called a DSP or demand side platform, and I liken all this to like the stock exchange, because when you buy and sell on the stock exchange, there's a broker, there's the exchange, and there's a seller. And it's very similar in this circumstance as well in terms of the demand side platform is like the broker, and that's where brands or agencies and advertisers input who they'd like to, the type of individual they're targeting, the channels they're targeting. And then you've got the ad exchange, which is in the middle, which brokers that deal. And then there's a SSP, supply side platform, which is where all the publishers put the inventory that they have to sell. So, and this all happens in real time. It happens in 800 milliseconds. So, for example, you might have The Guardian, for example, or the Sydney Morning Herald. When an individual opens that website or that page, there's a signal that goes out from that to the demand side platforms saying this individual is about to open this or is opening this page. And then what the demand side platforms do is they assess all the unique identifiers of that individual. And that's a whole range of elements like device ID, geo coordinates, IP address, cookie-based information. And in that very limited time frame, they make a decision, do or do I not want to put my ad in front of that person, and how much do I want to bid for that? And if that bid goes ahead, then the ad gets uploaded, and that happens in real time, like I said, in 800 milliseconds. So, and that happens across all platforms. That's a newspaper example or website example. That happens for podcasts. That also happens connected TV, et cetera, et cetera.
Great. And so that sounds really complicated, but if you've got someone like yourself at Cor Comms and Henry in our digital team, it actually does. It's not that complicated on the back end. Is that right for you guys?
Well, no. Once it's set up, and I hate the term programmatic. That's what it's always been termed, because who uses that term? It's not very well known. Programmatic really could be exchanged with the word automatic. because that's what you're doing. Is once you've input all the data into the DSP or the platform that we access to set a programmatic advertising campaign live, then it's all automated. And so it is about obviously reviewing and optimizing, because we go generally in the first instance, you go quite broad with your campaigns, and then you see what's working, which target audiences, which targeting is making a difference and moving the needle, and you might apply and shift budget around. But yeah, it's not overly complicated once it's all set up and it's set free.
And so give us some examples of some targeting that you could do with this programmatic.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of different approaches that you can do, which is great, because depending on what kind of data you hold yourself. So first party data is gold, because that's your data that you hold on your clients, for example. You have in a CRM. So you can remarket to those guys. You can also develop lookalike audiences off them as well, which is basically the system assessing the profile of your audience and then identifying people who are very similar. Because a good guide to future prospects or audiences or buyers and purchasers is current buyers and purchasers. So that's first party data. There's also what we call third party data, which comes from third-party data providers. And some of them specialize in different areas, business to business or consumer. But that all comes from the information that we give up. And we do give up a lot of information. It could be flybys, it could be everyday rewards, it could be frequent flyers, even MasterCard, Visa, those types of things. They know your average grocery spend, where you live, all your demographics, so all that information. So we access third-party data providers when we have a target audience, and they can then deliver us with, it's all de-identified, obviously. There's no names or anything associated with it. It's all device IDs or ISPs that we can then target, knowing that they sit within the target audience that we're looking to reach. So that's just two. Browsing audiences is another one, which is cookies-based. And when we're searching the interweb, often, obviously, websites drop cookies on your browser. So it's known the type of interests and intent that you have. And so that also is used in that process. So someone's looking for a caravan because they've been to various caravan sites, then clearly if we're doing a campaign that's targeting prospective caravan buyers, they're the type of people that will be loaded up into into our target audience. And cookies, look, Google have been threatening for, I think, 4 years now to remove cookies. It only probably about a month ago, they've extended it. They've decided not to remove them. But what that has done in the interim is forced agencies and brands to look at other ways to target, because cookies are so powerful, to ensure that you're reaching your prime target audience. And one of those approaches is contextual advertising. The DSP that we use, they have recently introduced a proprietary technology using AI that basically crawls websites to assess the type of information that's on there. So if, again, I'll use the caravan example. If you're looking to buy a caravan and you're on a web page because you're searching specs for a certain brand or whatever it might be, and there's advertising available to be served on there, if that article that they're reading, and it might be any kind of like Caravanning Australia, for example, if that article has information which highlights, obviously, that it's got caravans in it, they're looking at four-wheel drive caravans, they're looking at outback adventure, because this is the type of caravan that I'm selling, then and you can also ensure there's negative keywords are used as well to make sure if it contains things like insurance or public liability or things that might be in other articles that aren't really related to a caravan buyer, then it won't be served. But if it ticks all the boxes in terms of keywords that we're looking to reach for a target audience, then our ad will be served. And that's all done in real time. Again, as soon as they're loading that page, the DSP knows the content of that page and will serve the ad. So the cookies is kind of looking back in terms of what people have looked at. Contextual advertising is what they're looking at now. So sometimes that's seen as more powerful because it's in the moment, and you know that people are interested in that that product or service. Similarly, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, so a lot of it is really like the back end of some people may be familiar with what the back end of Meta might look like, or Google, in terms of setting up a campaign. Is that right? Are we talking about similar sort of parameters?
Yeah, certainly there are aspects that would be similar in terms of targeting, such as demographics, and it can depend on the type of or the breadth of interest and intents, for example, that someone like Meta might hold compared to what DSPs hold. And I think they hold a lot more, because if we take a step back and look at digital advertising as a whole, you can basically break it into three sections. There's social media, the walled gardens, as they call them, so the likes of LinkedIn, TikTok, Meta, Facebook. Then there's Google search, so pay-per-click, and then there's programmatic advertising. And what programmatic advertising does is allows you to go a little bit broader. Like if you're just advertising on Facebook or on Snapchat, for example, then your hope is that your audience is on that platform. And a lot of people spend a lot of time on social media, but with programmatic, you're actually going to the open or broader internet. And I think some stats I looked at recently, there's like people spend maybe 2 hours per day on social media and 6 hours per day on the internet. So if you're using both in terms of social media and programmatic, you've just got a broader opportunity to reach your target audience. But in answer to your question, they are broadly similar in terms of those targeting options that those social walled gardens have. But just to touch on some other kind of targeting aspects that you can use in programmatic, and these are quite similar, or some of them are similar with social media. Lookalike audiences. So again, taking information from a pixel on your website of the types of visitors you have, and then looking at their profile and matching that with similar profiles to serve that advertising to. Weather and time of day even can be used, because you might be using or selling a product that is weather dependent. You probably don't want it being promoted if the weather is not conducive to someone considering it or buying it. But geofencing is another one, or geo-targeting. So just a localized area, for example, Tasmania. So that's one form of geo-targeting, but then geofencing is a lot narrower in terms of hitting locations. So putting longitudinal and latitudinal information into the buying process, and people who then enter that area, they're usually with their mobile phones, and so those mobile phones, they have a unique identifier, and they're identified, and then the advertising campaign can continue to be served to them. And that's used a lot in what they call conquest advertising, where competitors might geofence a car yard of their competitor car yard, because people will look around, and so they'll hit up and target people who have been in opposition car yards. And it happens across a whole range of, even people who might go to an industry event, might be chasing accountants, and there's an industry affair workshop or something on, then you've got your target audience within those parameters. So that's a really good one as well. And one of the ones that we've used, recently or about to use is language settings, which allows us to target people from different non-English speaking backgrounds. And so you can, if people have a setting on their phone which is in their native language, then we're able to ensure that we can reach and target those guys as well as target websites, key websites from their native country. And clearly it's not going to be served to people who are in that country. We'll only serve the ad if someone is from our geographic area, i.e. in this instance Tasmania, who happen to be looking at a native website that they're on. And so it can be quite narrow in terms of reaching those language speakers. So that's kind of the breadth of targeting. It's very broad, even in what they call account-based management, which is business to business. So you can target by job, industry, company in a business to business scenario.
Wow, yeah, that's really powerful. And as you say, people are spending more time on the internet than they are on social media. So it's actually, talk about getting with the program. People do need to get with the program with a more sophisticated campaign. Whereabouts we talk about the funnel in marketing. That's about the customer journey. Where in the marketing funnel does programmatic advertising fit, Craig?
Yeah, sure. Well, it sits in all aspects of it. There's obviously the upper funnel, which is the awareness phase, and then there's middle funnel, which is kind of more research and interest and intent, and then the lower part of the funnel is the I suppose making the decision and the purchase. And so at the upper funnel stages, the types of channels within programmatic that are quite useful are things like connected TV. Just as TV is very much about broad scale awareness, you look at the top of the funnel, you're looking to spread a wide net to see who's interested in your product. And so podcasts and audio streaming as well are very good at that kind of upper funnel, particularly given people are heavily engaged in that content, and generally it's unskippable as well. So really get some good awareness with both connected TV and podcasts. Video pre-roll as well, which is you might see it before you watch your selected video on a news website. That's also great to get awareness. And even digital out of home, which is part of programmatic. So anything that's digital out and about outside can be plugged into programmatic. So even things like retail out of home, those you go to a shopping centre and there's freestanding digital screens, that's plugged into programmatic as well. And again, that's great for that kind of top of the funnel awareness. And then you've got mid funnel, which is native advertising, which it's it kind of blends into the to the material around it. It's not so overt as digital display advertising might be seen as, so it's like the editorial or advertorial of, if we use that analogy of going from traditional to the new age, advertorial. So there's a bit more information when people are seeking more information and advice. And then at the bottom of the funnel, again, digital display advertising, but in a retargeting aspect. Everyone's been followed around the internet at some stage when they've been to a website and looked at something and maybe put it in the cart and haven't brought it. Then you follow it around with those ads. That's at that bottom of the funnel where you're really trying to get that conversion. And you can also ensure that ad is linked to the type of information or the page that they've been on with the brand's website, to ensure that it's that they can't help but understand that I'm being chased and stalked. Yeah. So that's the bottom of the funnel kind of component, or one of the bottom of the funnel components of digital display and programmatic.
My dream is that it also learns that I've actually purchased and checked out, so it doesn't serve it to me, because I get those ads and I go, I've already bought that. Why are you still serving that to me?
Yeah, they haven't learnt that lesson yet, have they?
Yeah. And what sort of performance measurements are there? Because, we obviously need, when we're doing our campaigns, our clients want to see data to see how it's worked, even though we like to see that the actual campaign has done what the campaign's been designed to do. But, performance measurement's actually really critical. What's that like coming out of programmatic?
And yeah, look, it often depends on what your objectives are for the campaign. For example, we run a campaign for a home improvement company who are looking to get quote requests. So it's all about the conversion, or that click on the request a quote request, where they pop some information in, which helps to screen them. So everything is measured against that. It's cost per conversion. But also, we're looking to drive traffic to that campaign. So, the number of clicks, the cost per click, the click-through rate, those types of things are very important. And then with campaigns which are more awareness-based, which can often be particularly government campaigns that we run, it's not about a conversion. It's about kind of giving people information and advice, so there might be some kind of behavioural change we're looking at. Then that's really about the number of impressions and the cost per thousand, and the breadth of the campaign delivery. But the campaigns, programmatic campaigns, can also measure conversion tracking. So we can see a journey that someone might take. So they may have been exposed to the podcast ad initially, and there'll be a dated timestamp associated with that. And then we might see that we've got a retargeting ad because we know they've heard the podcast ad, we then serve them the digital display ad. So that then gives them the opportunity to click through, and that's date and time stamped again. And then if they come to the website and then do that conversion, whether it might be a quote request or it might be download a white paper or whatever that objective is, that's then linked back to everything else that's happened through that funnel process. So there's lots of metrics which allow you to kind of understand what kind of impact you're having and which components of your omni-channel campaign have contributed to that. So it's quite powerful in that respect.
Great. Is it expensive? Like,
fair question.
What sort of are these only for big budgets? How would this work?
Yeah. No, that's a fair question. I think that, and everyone is keen to understand that, simply because it sounds very technical, and there are some barriers to entry in terms of being able to access it, because a lot of people can get into the back end of Facebook and go Business Manager and set it up. Where programmatic, you need to have access to a DSP, demand side platform. But no, it's what we often talk about is just slowly catch a monkey, in terms of just applying a little bit of budget to test, and then from that testing phase, that's when you can take the gold dust out of that and understand which the audiences of that range of targeting that I mentioned earlier, which component of that targeting is really working, and then refining that, and then using that again and testing creative as well. So it's all about just applying a smaller budget in the first instance and working out what works, and then scaling it. And then once you can scale it, that's when you might want to spend more money, because you've got some confidence then that it's actually going to have an impact based on your previous testing. So it gets people comfortable.
But we also do a variant of testing when we're doing a campaign on social media platforms as well, don't we? Like we A/B test creative and then alter the campaign metrics, the parameters based on how people are responding.
Yeah, definitely. There's a big component of that. That's the kind of the optimization component of a campaign, and we might run a week of one creative, or a flight of one creative and a flight of another, and then when you start rolling out the campaign, and you know which one's performed the best, and that's the one that's the winner and is rolled out. So yeah, that kind of A/B testing and optimization is certainly used across all aspects. Even Google search, we use that. We get rid of keywords that we know aren't working, because you've got all the stats there. So it's the same with any other digital format, but certainly is employed in this one as well.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, Craig, and I'm not going to get you to just do a campaign strategy completely on the run, but I'm going to give you a scenario, and I wouldn't mind hearing from you, talking about the funnel and the different ways you can get the message out there. Maybe how you could approach it, just to paint a picture for the people listening in or watching to get a sense as to how that could work. So perhaps we're doing some work for a university that is targeting lecturers to recruit from other universities around Australia. What kind of tactics would you put in place for this university, Craig, to maybe follow some other lecturers around and get them through the funnel?
Yeah, so sure, that I suppose initially you might go a little bit broader, in terms of, like, there would be an opportunity to target people in the education industry, people who have certain job titles or positions. With account-based marketing, you can even target companies, and so some of these larger universities would be big enough to fall under that. So you can, it's the top of the funnel stuff initially that you do to work out what's working. And so you would go broad and use a lot of those kind of targeting aspects of job titles, position. Even you might highlight that someone might not want to come from Western Australia, so you might just do the eastern seaboard of Australia, for example. Hopefully this university is offering some incentives that often makes a difference with engagement rate, and they would be front and center, obviously, in the creative. And then through that process, we'd be looking at which of those targeting aspects are working. We'd have a retargeting component as well. So what we'd ensure is people who may have come to that website, and ideally you'd have a button which you'd click to register now or apply now type thing, or find out more. If people haven't clicked on that, then that would trigger the need to serve them follow-up advertising. And it might be that there's a closing date, so you add a bit more urgency. There might be a closing date to that, those applications, just to try and get them over the line. And quite often you find the click-through rate and the conversion rate from those retargeting ads are a lot better. Similarly, we'd look at lookalike audiences, so people who have visited that page. We would then take that data of their profile and apply that to an audience to attract people who are of a similar disposition, and get them to the website. So they'll be some of the tactics that we'd kind of off the cuff discuss and look to implement through the process, and then obviously optimize through the whole campaign process.
And so from a creative asset perspective, you would probably need some video,
Definitely,
some audio for playing out on podcasts. What kind of things?
Look, depending on the channels that we selected. So as you say, the video, video is just exploding. So and that gets people highly engaged. So video would be a component of that, and you'd have both landscape and portrait, so that people who can view them on their phones. If a podcast was an option, then you'd be recording podcasts, and you might have varying podcasts depending on if you maybe were retargeting using podcasts, so a bit more information to help move them down the funnel. Similarly with digital display, you'd have different creatives, those which is for the upper funnel component, just for the broad awareness, and then those which are further down the funnel, where someone might have listened to the podcast, that's happened, so you serve them the digital display, and that then gives them the opportunity to click through to the website. And not everyone clicks through. What you often find is there's a lot of organic traffic that comes not from an ad they've seen, but they may think about it and then just go and pop in the website, Google the website for this university, and arrive that way. But what our tracking technology allows us to do is know that they have been served the ad. So there's a date and stamp mark that when they've been served the podcast or the digital display ad, and we know who that person is from their unique identifier on their phone or their ISP. And then we know, even if they haven't come via an ad, that person has landed on the website. So that advertising has had an impact, although they haven't actually arrived via that advertising. It's good to be able to understand the impact of it, even if they haven't engaged with the advertising.
Yeah, right. It's very powerful. It's it's pretty good fun to be doing, isn't it?
I have been called a creep before today when I've explained to people in some business networking groups where I talk about what we do, and it's like, right, that's stalking, isn't it? You're a creep. So yeah, it's we enjoy it, and it gets results. So no matter how you term it, it delivers.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, Craig Harding, Marketing Director of Cor Comms. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks, Adrian. Cheers, mate.